The Galactic Trade Assembly was old, very old. It had existed for 12,000 years before humans even learned to build rockets. The assembly controlled everything in the galaxy: trade routes, fuel supplies, banking, and laws. Every intelligent species that wanted to survive in space had to join the assembly and follow its rules. The assembly met in a massive space station called Meridian. The station was beautiful. Its halls were made of crystal that glowed with soft light. Thousands of alien species walked through these halls every day. Some had scales, some had feathers, some looked like nothing humans had ever imagined. They all had one thing in common: they believed they were better than the newcomers from Earth. Humans had only been traveling through space for 200 years. In the eyes of the elder races, this made them children, bobbies who had just learned to walk. The elder races tolerated humans, but they did not respect them. Ambassador Park stood outside the main chamber, preparing himself for what was coming. He was 53 years old, with gray hair at his temples and tired eyes that had seen too many negotiations fail. Behind him stood his aide, Lieutenant. She was young and smart, and she believed in their mission. "Are you ready, sir?" asked. Looked at the massive doors ahead. Behind those doors sat representatives from 500 species. Most of them would laugh at what he was about to propose. "No," he said honestly, "but humanity has waited long enough." They walked into the chamber together. The room was shaped like a bowl, with thousands of seats rising up on all sides. In the center was a small platform where speakers stood. Walked to this platform while took her seat in the human section. Their section was small and located at the very back of the room, far from the center, far from power. High Arbiter sat in the largest chair at the front of the chamber. He was a species of tall aliens with blue scales and cold yellow eyes. They had controlled the assembly for 3,000 years. They owned the biggest banks. They set the trade prices. They decided who succeeded and who failed. Looked at the way a cat looks at a mouse. "The representative from Earth may speak," said. His voice echoed through the chamber. Took a breath. "Honored members of the assembly, I come before you today to request basic fairness." He touched a button on his tablet, and holographic displays appeared around the room. They showed charts and numbers and data. In the past 50 years, humanity has paid 9 trillion credits in tariffs to use assembly trade routes. We have paid another 4 trillion in interest on loans from the banking consortium. These loans were given to us when we first joined the assembly. We were told they were necessary for our development. He moved to the next display. But look at the terms: 20% interest rates, compounding annually. At this rate, humanity will be paying these debts for the next 5,000 years. We will never be free. Some murmuring spread through the chamber. Most of it sounded like laughter. Other young species face the same problem, continued. They have been in debt for 800 years. The people of Prime have been in debt for 1,200 years. This is not fair trade. This is slavery with extra steps. High Arbiter raised his hand, and the chamber fell silent. "What exactly are you proposing, human?" asked. His tone made it clear he did not care about the answer. "3 things," said. "First, equal voting rights. Currently, humans and other young species have no real vote. Elder races can override us on any decision. Second, fair tariff structures. We should pay the same rates as everyone else. Third, debt forgiveness or restructuring for all species trapped in predatory loans." The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then the laughter began. It started with the representatives and spread through the chamber like a wave. Hundreds of alien voices laughing at the human who dared to ask for equality. Some of them pointed at. Some slapped their seats in amusement. Watched from her seat, her hands curled into fists. She wanted to scream at them. She wanted to remind them that humans had cured diseases that killed other species, that human scientists had solved problems the elder races had given up on, that human soldiers had died protecting assembly trade routes from pirates. But she stayed silent. This was moment. The ambassador stood perfectly still on the platform, waiting for the laughter to end. His face showed nothing. When the chamber finally grew quiet, spoke again. "Young species always want more than they deserve," the High Arbiter said. "Humanity has been spacefaring for 200 years. You have not earned the right to sit as equals. Come back in 1,000 years, perhaps 2,000. Then we might consider your request." He waved his hand dismissively. Proposal rejected, no vote required. Nodded slowly. He gathered his tablet and his documents. Then he looked up at one final time. "Very well," he said. "If we cannot sit at this table as equals, we will not sit at this table at all. Earth withdraws from the Galactic Trade Assembly, effective immediately." The laughter stopped. His yellow eyes widened. "You cannot be serious. Without our trade networks, your colonies will starve. Your economy will collapse. You will be nothing." Was already walking toward the exit, rose and followed him. "Humanity has survived ice ages," said without turning around. "We have survived plagues that killed half our population. We have survived wars where we nearly destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. We will survive your indifference, High Arbiter. The question is whether you will survive ours." The doors closed behind them. In the chamber, 500 species sat in stunned silence. No one had ever walked away from the assembly before. It was unthinkable. It was suicide. But as followed her ambassador through the crystal halls of Station Meridian, she saw something on his face that she had never seen before. "Hope." "What happens now?" she asked. Smiled grimly. "Now we find out what humanity is really made of." The first 5 years were the hardest. The assembly placed a trade embargo on Earth and all human colonies. No alien ship would trade with humans. No alien station would let human ships dock. They called in every debt immediately, demanding full payment within 1 year. Human colonies began to suffer. The settlement on Seven ran out of medical supplies. The mining stations around Jupiter could not export their ore. Food shipments stopped reaching the outer colonies. People started to die. Admiral Han was a young captain back then. She commanded a small cargo ship called the Wanderer. Her job was to deliver supplies to struggling colonies using secret routes that avoided assembly patrols. She remembered the day she reached Seven. The colony had been without food for 3 weeks. When her cargo doors opened and the colonists saw the grain and vegetables inside, they fell to their knees and wept. An old woman grabbed his hand and kissed it. "We thought Earth had forgotten us," the woman said. Squeezed her hand. "Earth never forgets its children." But supplies alone could not save humanity. They needed something bigger. They needed a miracle. The miracle came from a small research station orbiting Neptune. Doctor was a quiet man who had spent 20 years studying physics. Most people thought his ideas were crazy. He believed that empty space was not actually empty. He believed there was energy hiding in the vacuum itself, enough energy to power 1,000 civilizations. The Assembly's scientists had proven this was impossible. Their textbooks said so. Their equations said so. Their computers said so. Did not care what their textbooks said. For 5 years, he worked alone in his tiny station. He had almost no funding. His equipment was old and broken. Sometimes he went days without eating because he forgot. He was obsessed with solving the puzzle that everyone said could not be solved. On a cold morning in the 15th year after Earth left the assembly, finally succeeded. The device was small enough to fit in his hand. It looked like a metal sphere with glowing lines on its surface. Inside, the fabric of space itself was being twisted and pulled, releasing energy that had been locked away since the birth of the universe. Stared at the readings on his screen, then he laughed, then he cried, then he called Earth. "I did it," he said. "Unlimited energy, no fuel needed, we are free." Within 3 years, every human ship was using the new power source. The assembly's fuel embargo became meaningless. Human vessels could travel anywhere without stopping to refuel at alien stations. But was not finished. If empty space contained energy, he reasoned, then perhaps space could also be folded. Perhaps a ship could skip from one point to another without traveling the distance between them. He was right. In the 25th year, the first human ship folded space and traveled across the galaxy in minutes instead of months. The assembly had always claimed this technology required ancient navigation databases that only they possessed. Another lie. Admiral Han stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the Perseverance, and watched the stars blur as her ship folded through space. Behind her followed 73 vessels. All of them were built in human shipyards. All of them were crewed by humans. All of them could go anywhere in the galaxy. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "we are receiving a distress signal." Frowned from whom? "Ma'am, they are under attack." The bridge fell silent. They had laughed at humanity. They had tried to starve human colonies. They had called humans insects and savages. For 30 years, they had watched from their comfortable worlds while humans struggled to survive. "What is attacking them?" asked. The officer checked his readings. His face went pale. "Unknown species. The signal calls them the Hollow. They have already destroyed 3 systems. The message says they consume everything. Ships, stations, planets, nothing stops them. Walk to the main. Somewhere out there, billions were dying. Their fleet was being torn apart. Their children were screaming." She thought about the old woman on 7. She thought about the colonists who had wept when they saw food. She thought about what it meant to be human. Then she thought about the High Arbiter who had laughed at Ambassador Park 30 years ago. She thought about the embargo and the debts and the dead. Part of her wanted to turn away. Part of her wanted to let the burn. But that part of her was small. It was the voice of anger and revenge. It was not the voice that made humanity special. "Set a course for space," she ordered. Her first officer looked at her in surprise. "Admiral, after everything they did to us." Turned to face her crew. They were young and old, men and women, people from Earth and Mars and a dozen colony worlds. They had all suffered during the embargo. They had all lost people they loved. "They hurt us," she said. "They laughed at us. They tried to destroy us. But we did not survive 30 years of isolation to become like them. We survived because we are better than that. Because when we see people suffering, we help. That is what makes us human." She looked at each face on her bridge. Some nodded. Some wiped tears from their eyes. None argued. "Helm," she said, "maximum speed to Prime, and open a channel to Earth Command. Tell them the galaxy needs us." The Perseverance turned toward the stars, and 73 ships followed. 30 years ago, humanity had walked away from the table. Now they were coming back, but they were not coming back to beg for a seat. They were coming back to save the galaxy that had abandoned them. The ships landed on Earth on a gray morning in November. They did not land at the main spaceport with flags and ceremonies. They landed in emergency fields outside the city, their hulls covered in burn marks and patches. Refugee ships, broken ships, ships that had barely survived the journey. President watched from her office window as the aliens climbed out. Hundreds of them, thousands. Their blue scales were dull with exhaustion. Their yellow eyes were empty with grief. Many of them carried children in their arms. 30 years ago, these people had controlled the galaxy. They had laughed at humans. They had tried to starve human colonies. Now they stood in muddy fields on Earth, waiting for help from the species they had treated like insects. The universe had a dark sense of humor. The delegation arrived at the council building 3 hours later. There were 5 of them, led by a young female named. She was tall and thin, and her scales had lost their shine. Her robes were torn. Her hands were shaking. She walked into the council chamber and stopped. Every seat in the room was filled. Earth's leaders had gathered from every continent and colony. Admiral Han stood against the wall in her uniform. Doctor sat in the science section, his gray hair messy as always. Former Ambassador Park, now old and retired, watched from the back row. Looked at all these humans. Then she did something no had ever done before. She fell to her knees. "We beg for your help," she said, her voice cracked. "The Hollow have taken 47 systems. Our combined fleets are destroyed. The Assembly cannot stop them. We have nowhere else to go." Counselor leaned forward. He was a hard man from Mars. During the embargo, his daughter had died on a colony that ran out of medicine. He had not forgotten. "Why should we help you?" he asked. "You laughed when we asked for equality. You tried to destroy us when we left. My daughter is dead because of your embargo." Lowered her head. Tears fell from her yellow eyes. I know what we did. I cannot undo it. I cannot bring back your daughter. I can only tell you that we were wrong. We were cruel and blind and wrong." "Pretty words," said. "Easy to say when you have nothing left." "Yes," agreed. "When we had power, we had no reason to change. Now we have nothing and we see clearly for the first time. You are right to hate us. You are right to turn us away. But I beg you anyway, not for us, for our children. They did not laugh at you. They did not vote for the embargo. Please do not punish them for our sins." The chamber was silent. President looked at the alien kneeling before her. She thought about all the years of suffering, all the colonies that had struggled, all the people who had died. Then she thought about something else, something her grandmother had told her long ago. Being good is easy when life is easy. Being good when life is hard is what matters. "What do you offer in return?" asked. Looked up, confusion crossed her face. "Offer. We have nothing left. Our banks are gone. Our planets are ash. We come to you with empty hands." Admiral Han stepped forward. "President, if I may speak." Nodded. Han looked at. "During the embargo, my ships delivered supplies to struggling colonies. Human colonies, but not only human colonies. We also sent food to them when their harvest failed. We sent medicine to Prime when disease swept through their cities. We did not tell anyone. We did not ask for thanks. We simply helped because people were suffering." Counselor's eyes widened. "You helped the same species that supported the embargo against us." "Yes," Han said simply, "because they were dying, and we do not let people die if we can save them. That is not who we are." The room erupted in argument. Some council members shouted that Han had betrayed humanity. Others shouted that she had shown true human spirit. Old wounds opened and bled. President raised her hand. Slowly, the room fell quiet. "Admiral Han said, you kept these missions secret for 30 years. Why tell us now?" Han looked at, still kneeling on the floor. "Because she needs to understand why we will help her. Not because she offered us something. Not because she apologized. We will help because that is what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, even those who have hurt us." Turn to the kneeling. "Stand up," she said. "No one kneels in this chamber, not allies, not enemies. Everyone stands equal here." Rose slowly. Her legs were shaking. President looked at the woman who represented everything humanity had fought against. Then she made her decision. "Earth will help you," she said. "We ask nothing in return. Admiral Han, mobilize every ship we have. Doctor, prepare whatever weapons you have developed. We are going to stop the Hollow." Began to cry again, but this time she was not crying from grief. "Why," she whispered, "after everything we did, why would you save us?" President walked down from her seat. She stood in front of thee and looked into her yellow eyes. "Because we are human," said, "and this is what humans do. We hope you are watching. We hope you learn." She turned to face the council. "We leave in 3 days. Prepare everything." The council rose to its feet. 30 years of anger and pain did not disappear, but something stronger filled the room. Pride, purpose, the feeling that humanity was about to show the galaxy who they really were. In the back row, old Ambassador Park smiled. He had walked away from the table 30 years ago. Now humanity was about to flip that table entirely. Commander Shin had seen many terrible things in her life. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belts. She had rescued survivors from burning stations. She had watched friends die in the cold emptiness of space. But she had never seen anything like the Hollow. The battle took place in a region called Threshold, a dark space between stars where no light reached. The Hollow had gathered their forces here, preparing to push toward the galactic core. If they broke through, nothing could stop them from consuming every inhabited world. Flew her strike craft through a nightmare. The Hollow were not normal enemies. They were not ships with crews and captains. They were a swarm, millions of small machines that ate metal and flesh and energy. When they consumed something, they turned it into more of themselves. They grew without stopping. Their central mass floated in the darkness like a moon made of stolen ships. Could see pieces of cruisers and assembly battleships merge together in twisted shapes. Lights flickered inside the mass. Screams echoed on radio frequencies. The Hollow did not kill their victims quickly. "All wings form up on me," ordered through her comm. "We are punching through to the center." 300 human pilots responded. They were the best in the fleet. Behind them flew survivors who had learned to use human ships, volunteers, warriors from Prime, a dozen other species who had answered humanity's call. 30 years ago, these species had supported the embargo. Now they fought beside humans against the darkness. On the flagship Hammer of Dawn, Admiral Han watched the battle on her. The human fleet had arrived with 400 ships. The allied species had brought another 200. Against them stood the largest Hollow swarm ever recorded. Numbers did not favor humanity, but numbers had never been humanity's strength. Dr. Han spoke into her comm. "Is the weapon ready?" Deep in the engineering section, worked on a device that had taken him 5 years to build. It was called the Fold Space Bomb. The idea was simple but insane. If he could create a tear in space, the Hollow would be sucked into the gap. They would not die. They would simply be pushed into another dimension, trapped forever in a place between spaces. If his calculations were wrong, the bomb would also consume the human fleet. "The weapon is ready," said. His voice was calm. He had accepted the possibility of death long ago. "But Admiral, we need the enemy gathered in one place. If the swarm spreads out, the bomb will not catch all of them." Han nodded. "Understood. All ships concentrate fire on the central mass. Drive the swarm together." The battle shifted. Human ships pushed forward, their weapons blazing. The Hollow screamed on every radio channel, a sound that was not human or machine but something worse. They attacked with terrible speed, consuming ships whole. Commander lost her wingmate in the first hour, a young pilot named. He was 22 years old. He had joined the fleet to protect his family on Earth. The Hollow swarmed his ship and tore it apart in seconds. Did not have time to mourn. She pushed her craft harder, leading her squadron through gaps in the swarm. They dropped bombs on the central mass. They fired until their weapons overheated. "Admiral," her voice came through the comm. "The swarm is gathering, but we have a problem. 200 Allied ships are trapped behind enemy lines. The Hollow are blocking their retreat." Han looked at the tactical display. The trapped ships were species that had once cheered as humanity was cast out of the assembly. She could activate the bomb now. She could end the threat and sacrifice the aliens. Part of her considered it, a dark voice that remembered the embargo, the hunger, the dead. Then she remembered President's words. "This is what humans do." "Delay the detonation," she ordered. "All human ships cover the evacuation. Get those people out." Her first officer stared at her. "Admiral, if we wait too long, the swarm will spread. We will lose our chance." "Then we better work fast," Han said. "Move." The human fleet turned toward the trapped ships. They formed a wall between the Hollow and the Allies, taking hits that were meant for others. Ships exploded, crews died, but they held the line. Commander flew into the heart of the battle. Her craft was hit 3 times. Alarms screamed in her cockpit. Smoke filled her helmet. She did not retreat. "Come on," she whispered to the Allied ships. "Move faster." One by one, the trapped vessels escaped. Cruisers limped past the human line. Fighters raced for safe space. Each time one escaped counted. 200, 150, 150. Her ship was dying. Half her systems were offline. Her left engine was gone. But she kept flying, kept fighting, kept protecting. The last Allied ship cleared the zone. Admiral reported, "All ships are clear. The swarm is concentrated. You can fire." Han looked at the tactical display one last time. The Hammer of Dawn had taken 17 hits. Hundreds of human pilots had died buying time for alien ships. It was the most costly operation in human history. It was also the most human. "Doctor," she said, "fire the weapon." In the engineering section, press the button. Space itself screamed. The fold space bomb activated and reality bent around the hollow swarm. A hole opened in the universe, dark and hungry and infinite. The hollow tried to escape, but they were too concentrated. The tear pulled them in, millions of machines vanishing into the void. The central mass collapsed. The screams on the radio stopped. The darkness swallowed itself. Then the hole closed, and there was silence. Commander floated in her damaged craft, staring at empty space. Where the hollow had been, there was nothing, only stars. "Did we win?" she asked. Admiral Han's voice came through the comm, tired but strong. "Yes, Commander, we won. All ships stand down. The hollow are gone." Across the fleet, humans and aliens cheered. They had faced the end of everything and survived. They had done it together. On the Hammer of Dawn, Admiral Han sat down in her chair. She was exhausted. She was grieving. She had lost so many good people. But she was also proud. Humanity had not won because they were stronger or smarter. They had won because they refused to leave anyone behind, even people who had hurt them, even people who did not deserve saving. That was the human way. And the galaxy would never forget it. 1 year after the Battle of Threshold, the galaxy gathered again. The old assembly station was gone. The hollow had consumed it during their rampage. No one mourned its loss. The crystal halls had been beautiful, but they had also been symbols of cruelty. A place where elder races looked down on younger ones. A place where power meant more than fairness. The new meeting place was built on Earth's moon. It was not made of crystal. It was made of simple stone and steel. There were no golden chairs for important species. There were no small seats in the back for newcomers. Instead, there was a circle of identical chairs. Everyone sat as equals. Everyone's voice mattered the same. They called it the circle. President walked into the chamber on the first day. She did not sit at the head of the circle because there was no head. She took a seat between the representative and the ambassador from Prime, just another voice in the room. The who had knelt on Earth's floor 1 year ago sat nearby. Her scales had regained their shine. Her eyes were no longer empty, but she carried scars that would never heal. She had lost her. She had lost her family. She had lost everything except hope. Hope that humans had given back to her. Representatives from 300 species filled the circle. Many of them had fought in the Battle of Threshold. Many of them had lost ships and friends and loved ones. But they had also learned something important. They had learned what it meant to stand together. Old Ambassador Park watched from the observation gallery above. He was very old now, past 90. His hair was white and his hands trembled, but his eyes were sharp. He had waited 30 years for this moment. Beside him sat Captain, his former aide. She had stayed with him through everything, through the embargo, through the silent years, through the war against the Hollow. Now they watched together as history changed. You should be down there, said. This is your victory. Shook his head slowly. No, it was never about me. It was never about victory at all. Then what was it about? The old man smiled. Below them, President was standing to address the circle. The room fell silent. 30 years ago, said, a human ambassador came to this galaxy's leaders and asked for fairness. He was laughed at. He was dismissed. He was told that humanity did not deserve to sit as equals. She paused, looking around the circle of faces, and in a dozen other species who had once supported the embargo. That ambassador walked away, and humanity spent 30 years alone. We suffered, we struggled, we lost people we loved, but we also learned something about ourselves. We learned that our strength does not come from power or wealth or technology. Our strength comes from who we choose to be when no one is watching. Lowered her eyes. Shame still burned inside her when she remembered how her people had treated humans. When the hollow came, continued, humanity could have turned away. We had every reason to let this galaxy burn. You had given us nothing but cruelty. You had tried to destroy us. Some of you celebrated when our colony starved. The chamber was completely silent. No one could deny what she was saying. But we did not turn away. We came to help. Not because you deserved it, not because you apologized. We came because that is who we are. We do not measure ourselves by how we treat our friends. We measure ourselves by how we treat those who have given us every reason to walk away. President sat down. For a moment, no one moved. Then stood. Her voice was quiet but steady. I speak for the people, she said. We were wrong. For thousands of years, we believed that power made us great. We believed that controlling others made us strong. We were fools. Humanity has shown us what true strength looks like. It looks like mercy. It looks like sacrifice. It looks like a fleet that dies to save people who once tried to destroy them. She turned to face President directly. They will never forget what humans did for us. We pledged to build a new galaxy, not one built on power and debt and fear. One built on the principles that humanity has taught us: equality, compassion, hope. One by one, other species rose to speak. They thanked humans for the secret food shipments during the embargo. The people of Prime thanked humans for the medicine that saved their children. Species that had been enemies for centuries stood and admitted their mistakes. In the observation gallery, old Ambassador Park wiped tears from his eyes. That, he said that is what it was about, showing them what we already knew. And what is that? Watched as Admiral Han, now retired and wearing simple civilian clothes, walked to the center of the circle. She had been chosen as Earth's representative. The woman who had commanded the fleet at Threshold. The woman who had delayed the bomb to save alien ships. Strength is not measured by who you can dominate, said softly. It is measured by who you choose to protect. Admiral Han presented her first proposal, a mutual defense pact. Any species attacked would be defended by all others. No more embargoes, no more debt traps, no more species abandoned to face the darkness alone. The vote was unanimous. Far away, on a planet that they were slowly rebuilding, a young girl looked up at the night sky. Her grandmother had told her stories about the hollow, about the darkness that had consumed their old, about the fear and the screaming and the death. But her grandmother had also told her other stories, about ships that came from a distant blue planet, about humans who could have let them die but chose to save them instead, about an admiral who sacrificed her own people to rescue strangers. Grandmother, the girl asked, why did the humans help us? We were mean to them. Her grandmother thought for a long time. In the old days, she would have had no answer. They had never helped anyone without expecting payment. The idea of saving enemies was alien to them. But they were learning. Because they are human, her grandmother finally said. They do not help people because those people deserve it. They help because helping is right, because every life matters, because when they see someone suffering, they cannot look away. The girl stared at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, a small blue world that had changed everything. A world of strange creatures who cried over dead enemies and fed people who hated them. "I want to be like them," the girl said. Her grandmother smiled. "Then the humans have already won. Not a war, something more important. They have won our hearts." Above them the stars burned cold and bright. The hollow were gone. The old assembly was gone. A new galaxy was being born, shaped by the values of a small species from a small world. Humanity had walked away from the table 30 years ago. Now they had built a better table, and this time everyone was welcome to sit.